hear his feedback as needed.
I will keep an eye out. In fact, I think yeah, he looks like he's in the audience. So at the right time.
Awesome. And if I lose you, I apologize. I am mobile from the Holy Cross softball field where the game rages on. And I have stepped away, but I'm sure they've got it well covered. Nothing like coaching organized chaos.
Uh-huh.
Is that referring to softball or this group?
Well said. I think there are a lot of
God.
life applications, Wayne. Look at you. Rushed home and you got a good one in.
Okay, so Meredith was there and I tried to promote her.
I see her.
Okay, I don't see her at all.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Gotcha, Meredith.
I just haven't put video on yet. I'll do that now.
All right. I know John Ventresco will not be able to make it tonight. Hi, Amanda.
So the only other person missing is Greg.
Greg. I haven't heard from Greg. No, we'll give one more minute and then we'll start up. I can do my preamble if that's okay. First off, in keeping with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. Meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. So we got that out of the way. We will do a roll call, and I'm just going to go by boxes. Jim Lee.
Here.
Dennis Sheedy, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Ed Hands.
Here.
Al Benson.
Present.
Good to see both of you gentlemen. Amanda.
Here.
Meredith.
Here.
And Tom Broussard is here as well. Thank you all so much. Beautiful weather today. Hope you folks got to enjoy some of it so far. I don't think I'll keep you too long. So if you haven't, you got a chance to get out there this evening. Couple of items we have minutes related to April 13th. We do have a discussion just about expiring terms and representative appointments. There's an item that I've added, which is the review and discussion of the Unionville Field pickleball courts closeout. And that's just a post review of the project. I think Meredith raising her hand last week prompted a really good discussion about how we do review projects that have closed. And so I think there's a particular item that we've identified on the pickleball courts that we as a committee may want to review and consider this go round. And have already spoken with Meredith, and we're working to develop any other items as a separate application request that we want to promptly look at regarding the pickleball courts, but we can get into that when we get to that agenda item. Lastly, the regular solicitation for applications for potential projects, that discussion, and that should be it. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes for the April 13th regular session. Did anybody have any issues, thoughts, concerns, or corrections or updates? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to accept April 13th, 2023 regular session minutes.
So moved. Second.
Excellent. I didn't catch the who moved.
Dennis.
Ah, there you go, Dennis. I knew it was a deep bass voice. And I'll give Jim Lee the tie on the second. Going around the horn, Jim Lee.
Aye.
Dennis.
Yes.
Ed.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
Amanda.
Aye.
Meredith.
Aye.
And Tom is an aye as well. Thank you all so much. So just some discussion points. This is that time of year where representation, appointments, expiring terms comes up. In terms of CPC representative appointments, and we don't need to vote, or I don't think we're voting or asking or worried about anything. It's just raising awareness with these next two pieces. So conservation, Al, obviously love to have you on board, but appreciate you guys have a process. Historical, Ed.
Me.
We got you, Ed.
No, I'm not. I'm at large.
Oh,
It's
that's right.
it's John Ventresco, and at the meeting last night, the Historical Commission did vote to reappoint him.
Got it. See, I was thinking Ed was going to pull a coup, take the nomination from historical. I misread the tea leaves, Ed. I apologize. Planning department, I know Greg isn't here. Rec, Meredith, obviously really appreciate and love having you on board. I'm not sure if I'm doing the best job selling this, but I'm really would hate to see anybody on this team go. You guys are all amazing. Same thing, obviously, Dennis, on the housing authority as well.
That is on next Tuesday's agenda.
Awesome. From
So
expiring terms,
how do you get reappointed? What's the process?
in terms of your expiring term, Ed, or as a committee member?
Well, no, I went to the volunteer website and filled out the form today. So if there's not a reappointment form, I'm reapplying for my own job. So
Yeah, that's the process.
That's it.
hallelujah. Okay.
Yeah, good call. And so I think technically, Wayne, Steph, it's we fill out our applications and then they're approved, I think, by is it the select board or?
They're
Exactly
reviewed by
so.
the select board, the only, if someone else had applied, usually, of course, the incumbent is given preference, but if someone else has applied, they will hold an interview process.
Makes sense.
If
It
there's
needs to go in front of our
contest-
board though, right? Doesn't it need to go in front of our board if you have a board you
I'm
represent?
sorry, I thought for reappointment of your representation, it's at your board. Yes, I thought, I was answering Ed's question, Meredith,
Yeah,
not you.
fine.
Yeah,
I mixed you
sorry.
up.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the
So
at-large
Ed and I, for
folks.
example, Meredith filled out forms. They will get, the select board will review, and if we're the only ones and we're the incumbents and everything's going well, we'll get it. But if 7 people applied for the spot, I think we have to go before the select board again to discuss. But you're right, your appointments, Meredith, for you would be with your committee, the rec committee.
Right, and you may want to find out, so on the planning board side, we already have it penciled in for the agenda of June 23rd. So, I don't know if historical has
They
theirs.
did it. Yeah, they did it last night, actually, and reappointed John.
Ed, was it unanimous last night?
It's
Yeah,
not,
I definitely thought I should do the job again. Although I think I left the education issue blank. So maybe you don't need to have an education to be on this committee.
Or everybody knows your education so well by now, Ed. I'm pretty sure you'll be okay. Okay, so again, just a heads up, if you all could let us know if your respective committees do re-vote to support you, we'd love to obviously keep the team together, keep the band together, as they say. And then as soon as we get confirmation for Ed and myself, we will have our group, and then we can make sure we vote for who we would like to have for chair and vice chair again as well. So I think we want to do that for the next meeting in terms of timing. Wayne, Stephanie, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think so. Yeah.
So next up, I think this is a really great opportunity, this next item. And Stephanie, if you could promote Mr. Michael Duffy to join. So as a preamble, last meeting, Meredith appropriately, and I appreciate it, raised that there are other facets to the Unionville Field project that had initially been considered, had been engineered out thoughtfully from a cost consideration standpoint. But candidly, quote unquote, after we lived in it for a little bit, we realized that there were some things that should have been considered, would like to be considered to make the entire project successful. So that's kind of what this particular item is. It's not to solve the entire project. It's from our perspective as a committee, I think adding a closeout step review before a project is finalized enables us to consider items we may not have caught in planning or original design or the original application, correct things that may have been missed in the process, And I would also go so far as we may want to work with applicants such that there is a reserve of money that, and it might be just the contingency account, for example, but when we are reviewing applications, that we reserve a right as a committee and as the applicant and the entity, the town overseeing it, to go back and look at the project now that it's done. And I'll give you a crazy hypothetical. We built something, a field, didn't realize it was entirely situated in the baking sun and it blinds the players. And if we had done just a little bit or adjusted a little bit, that would solve a whole world of ills. Or in this case, and this is my lead in, and actually I'll pause. Meredith, I know we talked about it and you are from the rec department and you have graciously toured the Unionville pickleball fields. Did that sum up what we were kind of trying to give as a gist to the team?
Yes, so sometimes I feel that phasing is good. We talk about it from a cost standpoint that it can be more expensive, but sometimes it's more effective to do it in phases, even whether you plan it or not, to kind of let, like in the case now with the pickleball courts out there, and just taking a step back and seeing how it's running, where people are doing, what are the additional needs. So I think you summed it up perfectly. Thank you.
Awesome. And so that brings us to the proposal I wanted to share with the committee, get your thoughts and hopefully your support on. As always, we appreciate it when we get feedback from our residents, especially those that might be impacted by projects that we support. And it enables us hopefully a chance to readdress what may have been in an application that isn't, but that is impacting residents and therefore the quality of the project we put forth. So with us, joining us is Michael Duffy. Mr. Duffy is in a abutter right near the courts, reached out and really raised awareness about the amount of noise, both the consistency from beginning to the end of the day, obviously due to the overwhelming excitement of the pickleball courts, but asked if there was anything that we could do about it. And Mr. Duffy, I appreciate you reaching out to Connor first and being patient and working with us. But did you just want to share a little bit about what you're experiencing from a noise perspective and from the project's impact?
Yes, how you doing? Thanks for letting us on. I'm actually with my neighbor, Tim Green, too. He actually has it worse than us. Tim's beside me. I'm with my wife, too, Amy. I was actually trying to get Steve Carter and the other neighbor, the one that's next to the tennis court. So the three of us. Like I said, I appreciate you addressing this, and it's something that obviously I reached out to the selectmen and Connor Reed. I was concerned about this when it first started, the way the project went. We asked about it. They said, oh, we'll look at it, and it never happened. And obviously the project got delayed. And when it got built, I was like, okay, we got 6 courts. The amount of noise it's deafening. Tim actually has, right now they're playing, it's fine. All 6 courts are full as we speak. It's 7:15. He has a 2-minute clip. I thought I had it bad until I heard this, and Tim it's beyond deafening for them. And so we've asked for nets, something to alleviate this. And the reason why we're doing this is for 2 reasons. One is like you said, it's so popular. There's tournaments going on, and we understand we live next to a park. Tim's been here a lot longer than I have, and we know what it's like to live next to a park. But we've now added something that is 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, there's no let up. That's not what any of us signed up for, especially the abutters and the music. I mean, it's not just the clicking. It's a party. They're having a great time over there. We can see it. We hear it right now. But it's not just the clicking anymore. It is every aspect of the pickleballers, and they're having a blast. But it's too much now. It's beyond too much, especially Tim. My neighbors, like I said, they couldn't make it, and it's not as bad because they're at the tennis court part. But with my yard is about half of those courts, and it's constant. We've asked for nets, fence, however we can do this. But then there's some other concerns that we're worried about too. I know you guys are driving by there, your residents. They're parking on there's no parking anymore because it's so popular. They're now parking on the basketball courts. There was 10 cars there parked on the basketball courts. They're on the grass now. They're destroying the grass. I was like, we just spent $700,000 as residents, and they're destroying the field because it was never done right. And that's an issue too. We spent all this money. We have a nice park. I wish it was done better. Connor told me a little about the aspect of it, that it was more for the pickleballs. But we should have fixed up the tennis courts. We should have fixed up that basketball court. And then you planted a tree in the middle of the baseball field. I have no clue why you guys did that. It seems like the project was a miss from the beginning. Except for those pickleball courts, you didn't care anything else about Unionville Park. It's a shame, because I wish it was done right. And now we're gonna go back and try to fix all the problems that we didn't fix before. And like I said, Tim's here, I'm here, my wife, the neighbors could have been here. We need relief. And O'Connor said, oh, we got some more projects in the works that might relieve it. That's a year, 2 years away. We need something now. I'm not sure if the nets are gonna work. I hope they work. And maybe, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and I don't know if this is something we have to deal with the rec department, 12 hours a day on Sunday mornings. They were 8 in the morning. 7 in the morning, sometimes 7:30. Is that right for the abutters to be dealing with that? There's no peace anymore. We understand it's a field. We understand it's a park, but it's a 12-hour park now. It was never that way. We raised those concerns and they went by deaf ears.
Stephanie's actually been on my deck with me.
And here's Tim now.
Stephanie, I'm sure you can remember that day that you and I and the Ramco Steak fellow met. Can Stephanie hear me?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't hear you acknowledge that. I just want to make sure that, you know, the conversation that you and I had that day, it's deafening. You know what I mean? I mentioned to you that I've been here 33 years. I had deer and turkey in this yard, and that was about it. And you know, when I tell you ruined my life, I wasn't kidding. It's absolutely true. And you know, I never received any letter or any notification that this was happening. I thought we had to tell the abutters. Maybe I missed something, but I'm not sure of that, because I don't think anybody else got one as well. As I say, I did take a video, and Stephanie is aware of my concerns as well as Mike's. There really truly should be you know, the highway puts up these concrete barriers, the sound barrier, the sound of the highways. You know, not that we're ever going to get that, but fencing, and you know, she mentioned to me to put up shrubs. I'm not putting up shrubs. It's not coming out of my pocket, as well as I showed her the shrubs that I have all been eaten by the deer. So that's not going to happen. But I did mention the privacy screen, and I appreciate you getting the Bouse house, which they were all going to the bathroom in the woods. And, you know, that's no good. So again, this is, it's not good. It really isn't. Now, if you'd like, I can play you this 2-minute clip here. And just to give you an idea here, tonight was quiet in a sense, because, you know, we just put all brand new furniture on decking. I can't even go out in my yard. Can't enjoy. No, we're talking about selling. How sad is that? Been in Easton my whole life. Matter of fact, my wife's great-grandfather donated that property to the town. And you can do the research on that if you'd like his name. So, you know, what's going on now? Why didn't we face this towards the villa? I have no idea. Engineering, possibly. I can't even tell you. A business like that, they're not going to be affected like the homeowners are. I don't know why we didn't put it there. And I mentioned that to Stephanie before in the process of this. And, you know, you took away the swing sets. They've been there for 100 years, of swing sets for the kids. They're not there anymore. You know, you took away the ball field. They don't play there anymore. Little kids are here and there, but, you know, she mentioned that she wanted it to be a park and a playground. Where did that go? You took it away. And, you know, I don't mean to be so negative, because I enjoy the sport, but not in my yard. And literally, it's in my yard. It's 20 feet from my property line, if that. So, again, if you don't mind, if you have a second here, I'll just turn this on and let you listen to it and kind of see it as well. So, oh, I got to turn on that microphone probably. That's in 1 sec. That would make sense to do that. Nice. Just had a second here. Yeah. No, turn it the other way up. Right. Yep. Is that all the way up?
Yeah,
Oh, I touched it. Ah, geez. Sorry, me and technology aren't so great.
Don't think the microphone's picking it up. Is anybody hearing it?
No.
No.
Well,
Let me turn it up below 1 second.
if it somehow we can send it to, what are you showing? Is he's showing something that it is all day. it's a constant. And I know
I've heard it.
I know we're beating a dead horse over this, but it's
That's okay. No, no, we appreciate it. And, you know, look, the at times it's not that something went wrong. It's how we react to now that we're here. And I appreciate you folks, again, raising your hand, being residents of Easton that, you know, value obviously a lot about what Easton brings to the table. And I think you've given us some areas of opportunity for the CPC, at least, where we can engage to be thoughtful and considerate. And so I guess there's a couple things that I'll probably take away from this. One, just to make sure that we are working hard to be communicative. Doesn't mean it would change the outcome, but ensuring you folks were aware of the project, had a voice, that you could attend the numerous meetings about it so that you could share your concerns. That can help influence and inform us so that we make a better decision back in the day. And so I think, you know, Stephanie, Wayne, team, I think for us, when we have larger projects, making sure that abutters are communicated to, whether it's mailings. I know we post things at times, but that's my takeaway is communication. I do have a list of things. I think you brought up some very valid things about making sure what is there is being used appropriately. Steph, I would like to ask if you could tell me what the regulations are, and it doesn't have to be now. This is a list that we'll get to later, but the regulations on how long those fields can and should be used legally. If it is 12 hours, 24 hours a day, we should just know that. And maybe as a committee, we would take that into consideration to put in as a stipulation if possible, so that we're thoughtful about abutters. So I think that's a great point that you raised. The other thing is, you know, we really need to monitor that the assets we've created, like parking on grass or on basketball courts, that can't be acceptable. And so the environment has to be safe. And we certainly don't want to degrade the money we did invest by having fields ruined from parking or basketball courts unusable. You did bring up a great point, Mike, if I can call you Mike, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
That we do on the CPC, certainly try to think holistically about projects. You'll actually see that present at this year's warrant articles for a couple of CPC related items. And we try to think around what the applicant has given us. Technically, we have an application that we are, that is submitted to us that we get to vote on. What we did this year, and I know the committee is incredibly thoughtful in the past as well, we always try to be, is this year we have a process where we ask the applicant to submit a proposal or a letter of intent or interest, and we meet with them. And then we meet with them on a draft application, and then we meet with them on the actual application vote. And where I'm just going with it is we're trying to create thoughtful engagement around a broader view of a project. So to your point, if we're fixing the pickleball courts and we can get cost efficiency by also doing the basketball courts at the same time, and we make sure the fence is right and that the field is maintained the way we think the community wants to, we'll work with an applicant to potentially broaden their scope. We also work with them sometimes to narrow their scope. It sometimes does come down to money. But this was decidedly a pickleball oriented application, and that group approached us directly. But I think you're right. Trying to think broadly to maximize the value to the community and the impact is certainly something I'll take away. The bathroom is another thing, Steph. I just think, you know, we can't have people going to the bathroom in the woods.
Or people's property.
Or people's property. Good call. Thank you. So I just, what I might do, Michael, is just reach out to the folks that I know have taken a real big lead on the pickleball, and I might address some of these concerns with them as well. They really do a great job at networking in that community. So it won't just be us from the town or the CPC perspective, but we'll try to approach it from multiple viewpoints to, I guess, have the best impact and influence. Regarding the noise specifically, team, and I think for tonight, this is an area where we can focus and potentially make an impact pretty quickly. Thankfully, when Connor was contacted regarding this issue, he also, in addition to putting Michael and I together, he also did research and had Dave Fields do research, the DPW do research. And essentially there is a product called an Acoustifence that has been installed in other communities. And I do also want to say that noise consideration was in the initial application, and it's one of the items that along the way fell out. And so this Acoustifence, we have replies and actually noise testing done by other communities that I can share with the group. I'm going to try to share my screen, but I am not on the best Wi-Fi, so I will do my best. Hopefully you all can see this. But that's what Acoustifence looks like. It's not mesh, it's solid. There is, and if I can find my, get out of this. There is, so Mashpee installed this. They had testing actually performed by New England Soundproofing. It's proven literally by solid testing to make material changes in the amount of decibel noise. And I can certainly share this report. I'm not trying to scroll fast to hide anything, but just shows that the different levels of soundproofing at different areas and the reductions that happened when the wall was down or up. There's another page. See this barrier wall up data. So you can see at the speaker, a certain level, and this is the wall up, halfway, a reduction, the property line, and then the background noise. I think there's one other chart that shows, you know, the no walls data is materially higher. I feel like there's a grid. Or might be, here it is. So you can see when they're playing pickleball court, in the court, it's at 40, behind the wall, it's at 26, and a difference of 13. And these are all at different frequencies of sound. And so you can see the variance ranges from 13, 12, 9 on the low end to a 20 decibel change at a certain frequency. And that's pretty material. That's anywhere from a 25 to 40% reduction in noise, depending upon the frequency and the hertz. The cost of this, just for the materials, is $39,000, a round number. And the town has agreed to have the DPW do the installation to help minimize the cost. So that is a material acquisition cost. It is not a installation cost. So the town would be doing the installation. So I know that this, you know, part of the balance, sorry, one last thing, Mike and Tim and Amy, that we have to adhere to is we have to disperse funds in accordance with the warrant article. The residents voted for what the residents voted for. Now, we do believe that because this was in an initial application and because the warrant article language is what it is, that we are okay to pursue this if the committee votes to support funding this. So before I ask the committee to deliberate, I do just want to offer to you, Mike, Tim, and Amy, if there are any final comments. And then, you know, if you have them, great. And if not, we'll move you off so you can listen. And then I'll ask the CPC to deliberate. And certainly if the CPC has any questions for these residents, I'd offer that opportunity as well.
My wife, real quick.
No, I just want to say, I think it's vital to get this fencing because I reached out back in February when we had those 70-degree days. People were out there at 7 in the morning. And even this past Tuesday night, you know, it was 8:20 and they were still out there. You know, I think in addition to the fencing, I think there also needs to be some type of consideration for timing because I'm a night nurse. I work nights. I sleep during the day. I can't have my windows open anymore. And it's just very disrupting. So I think in addition to the fencing, you know, I think there needs to be some type of discussion with the timing. It can't be dusk to dawn because it's just, I think about July and it's gonna be light out till 9 o'clock, maybe later. And, you know, we have small kids, they're 8, 7, and 6 now. And I just, you know, it's loud. And so I think in addition to the fencing, that the timing needs to be considered as well.
So is this a full wraparound fence you're referring to, all 4 sides?
It's going to be three, I think it's three sides, Steph, with the open
That's my
side being
understanding.
to Union Villa.
That was the one other thing I know my wife asked, and just so you guys can consider it, and maybe you can answer that question too. Maybe the female who's in charge of the courts or is timing, like my wife said, is 12 hours a day. Is that something? Is that gonna be the norm? And is that a consideration where it's not allowed, or is it allowed, or should it be allowed? And I think I don't know if that's for this committee here. I know you guys are working on getting the 39,000. And that's something we hope you all vote on and definitely say yes on that. Because it will be, hopefully it's a relief. We believe it will be a relief. But like I said, data, if you could actually send us that data, that'd be awesome too, because that looked like a good study. I know you scroll through it quick and we appreciate that.
Sure.
We definitely would love to see that link. You have my email. But that was the biggest question too, is that relief with that clicking for 12 hours a day. Like I said, he plays it, I played it, but clicking for 12 hours, it can make you go a little insane.
That's a privacy fence as well, Tom?
Yes, it's solid.
Can't see through, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, so those are some of the things that and I appreciate it. And like I said, as far as the timing wise, if you can get that answer, if you can't get it tonight, definitely let us know. If it's going to be 12, and like I said, in the summer, 14 hours a day, is that right for all day for some relief for the abutters?
Great call. And Amanda, you had your hand raised. I don't know if you had any.
I did, and it's I think more of a jurisdictional question. Because I agree completely with what Tom said, that there have been major unintended consequences here. And I think the idea to speak with the butters going forward is a great one. But jurisdictionally, what, we're talking about limiting hours. I mean, is a lot of this the stuff that should be going to rec, because I don't view, my understanding of our purview is that we can recommend appropriating funds from the CPA. We can make sure that the people who are building the projects do it according to the specifications that were approved and in the warrant, but we don't have any kind of enforcement ability or ability to set rules outside of that, do we?
The only time we do, and I believe, and somebody can fact check me, but I do believe we have the ability to enforce criteria on a master services agreement before the project is done and approved. Meaning we would support XYZ with these conditions on the front end, and that we could make it a condition of the agreement of the application.
But that would be for a new spend, for example, for this fence, because they don't have the money for that now.
Well, for us, I think our bite was when we were building the 6 fields, most likely. We at that point in time, probably now learning, reach out to what are the real rules. And if the rules say, look, people can play on a field from 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. and that's the town ordinance, you're right, Amanda, we can't by law override that, but we could put a rule in the application that says we would fund the courts, but the courts play would be limited to this point in time. And then the applicant could choose whether or not they wanted to continue to pursue the application. But in theory, we could seek to put that type of a limiting criteria in the initial project. But I agree, we can't do anything now. Full disclosure, Mike, the only thing we can do though, and we can continue to be an advocate for fairness. We are looking to build more courts as part of this year's warrant article. This is a fantastic time, Steph, if when you get back to us after this meeting, what the rules and regulations are, that we could potentially approach the pickleball community and see if they might be willing to self-impose some rules and regulations now that they have 5 more courts, increasing their capacity by 90% of pickleball usage. So maybe there's an opportunity to just show some good community neighbor behavior and see if giving 5 new courts helps alleviate the stress that these courts and the demand for the sport are creating.
Tom, if I may, one, I echo asking the pickleball community to exercise some consideration. And I'm going to ask Meredith if she knows, but I believe that the rec commission itself would have jurisdiction over the rules governing the times and uses of any of their facilities. And certainly I would think that this board could make the commission aware of the concerns that have been raised by the neighbors. I believe some of those concerns have also been raised to the rec commission, and a suggestion might be made that they limit times. I think how you do that may be a question, because I don't know that we have the manpower to say lock gates or things like that, or if that's something people want to do. But certainly, this board can communicate with the rec commission.
Will do. And I'll take that as a responsibility with you, Meredith, if you want to join a rec call. And Ed, I know you have your hand up. Go for it, Ed.
So a couple of things. There's one person in town that's incredibly happy that there's all this noise up in Unionville, and that's JJ Coe, whose house was next to the pickleball court at Frothingham. I talked to him on Sunday, and he said, my life is back to normal. I can sit in my backyard and have a cup of coffee in the morning. And the reason I bring that up is that there is some kind of fencing between the tennis court at Frothingham and his house. And I would urge you all to check that out before we put in this particular solution, in hopes that there's an even better solution perhaps coming down the line. There certainly wasn't one at Frothingham. This is a real mistake on our part. And it was unintentional. If you look at where we put the pickleball courts, it was supposed to be part of a integrated plan to improve the playground, save the ball field for little kids over on the other side. And that's why it's over here. Here's the one mistake that we can avoid in the future. I know that in many other town boards, when there's a hearing, abutters have to be notified. And maybe we should build that into our application process so that we had a huge lobby for pickleball. Now clearly we've impacted some good people in a very negative way.
Tim has a question too, if he can.
Yep.
To your point, Ed, I'm good friends with Johnny, and he's ecstatic that these courts are here now, which is really ironically funny. Him and his wife, there's about 6 inches between his property and those courts. But that being said, we can't do enough to try to quiet them down. And in regards to Stephanie, it's so difficult. How are you going to do it? You can't lock these courts. I've played a lot of tennis in my day, and all the courts have rules. They have a board up there with permanently fixture, stating the hours, things of that nature, and you can only hope they abide by them. You really, in regards to somebody showing up and locking the courts, that would be me with my own locks. Just kidding.
Or me.
Just kidding. But nonetheless, it'd be difficult for you, and really, truly, we really should be able to try to limit their play, but it's a tough thing to do. I fully understand that, but at least if you posted it, and that's simple. We send something out to a printer, get it printed, put it on the fence, and hopefully they abide by it. And when they don't, I can walk over and say, hey, listen, do you mind? Kids are trying to sleep here. And I will say this, the people in these courts, when I've been playing, I've met some really nice people, and they are nothing but sympathetic towards us. I can't get over how sympathetic they are. Super, super nice. And, of course, they keep bringing up Wellesley and all the rest of the places that are closing these things and knocking them down and moving them because of the neighborhoods, which is horrible. We're not looking for that. We're just looking to get things squared away.
Yeah, like I said, same thing. And it's a little bit of that relief, and hopefully a little bit of relief can go a long way to us having a little bit of enjoyment again. We're going to be in the summer. We haven't had a summer yet, but we've had a good spring, warm spring. So these guys are out here day, night, and it's having fun. Like he said, he's played. We've met them. I know them. They have a lot of fun. But, we're a little nervous in the summer because we 3 kids. We got a pool. Spent a lot of time out there, and like that cup of coffee. I have a big deck. I like to sit out. I sit inside now.
It's deafening for me. It really is. And Stephanie was on the deck when they were playing and she heard it and it's deafening.
I don't recall that they were playing when I was out there.
Oh, okay.
I
They
have
were-
coffee every morning across the street at the Beanery, and
Yep.
you can hear them over there.
I hear in my bedroom. That's why I was hoping to hear, honest to God, I'm kidding you not, in my hot tub, my bedroom, throughout my entire house, I can feel the ball. It doesn't go away. That's why I'm really, we got to get some relief here. And on top of that, I know you have to vote on it and stuff, but I'd really like a commitment out of you. If you approve this, how quickly are you going to jump on this?
Yeah, that was a question too.
So it sounds like you folks are good. The answer to that is we don't have any reason why we wouldn't go and purchase it and install it. I can't commit the DPW for their installation schedule. I don't know if there's a lead time on the procurement, but I definitely committed to keeping you in the loop. It won't be because the funds aren't available for the process, meaning the money will be there. It just comes down to whether or not, what's the lead time to purchase, what's the installation time and cadence, and what's the availability of the DPW to do so. So
Just-
this is not
And-
something.
and Tom, if I could just add to that, I really think it's going to depend on the lead time because everyone at town offices is really committed to helping resolve this and mitigate this problem with the noise.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't want it done in December.
Right,
Yeah.
no,
I mean, we're asking, and I think that's a little fair. I mean, I know we got a summer and, realistically, you're gonna
As
get.
soon as
this-
you can, it'd be much really
Are you
appreciated.
gonna get it done in a week? No, I mean, we're not naive to believe that.
Right. I
And-
think hopefully it's indicative of the fact that we learned about this last week and it's before our meeting tonight is supportive of how important we take it, I take it, and the committee. And we've already, credit to the town, Connor reached out to surrounding towns to get valid data to prove that this particular product creates a meaningful reduction. How much it costs, we already got a bid and a quote. So appreciate, your patience. You've been living this for a lot longer. Just know that this committee is, obviously we're committed to hearing you and discussing it. I can't tell you how the vote will go. The committee has the right to deliberate, debate, and vote. But it sounds to me in reading some of the questions, commentary, and support that you folks had, it sounds like we would have a vote tonight that might be able to support you folks. And I will very quickly connect with Connor and the town tomorrow. I'm sure Stephanie will be point on that. And then we will understand how quickly we can move. But we would not have to appropriate funds. So this wouldn't be a warrant article that has to go before the town, which would have been, could have elongated the process. So we've got that in our favor. So, but I will keep you in the loop as we actually learn definitive timeframes. We'll make sure we communicate back with you folks so that you know pretty much as quickly as we do.
We appreciate it. We'll watch the rest of the meeting, but I know you got some other things to do, but we look forward to
Thanks.
all the yeses.
Yep. Thanks for hearing us.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mike, Tim, Amy.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Ed?
I'd like to make a motion and has three parts to it. The first part is, I would move that we appropriate the unexpended funds towards building the net. Number two, I would,
Alert from disk not ejected properly.
and excuse me, there, it's now improperly ejected again, so wait a second. Second part, I would like to request that the chair draft a letter of support for changing the hours or other factors
Alert from disk not ejected properly.
to not only you'll do it two more times, to the Recreation Commission to just show our support, because absolutely it's the Rec Commission that can regulate that. And then the last thing here is I would like to have our application process amended to include the notification of abutters before we have a hearing on anything related to land or even buildings. And I'm proposing that not so much because it doesn't need to be refined, because it does, but just as a way to maybe focus the discussion.
Does anybody have any thoughts or questions
I would
before
second
somebody?
that.
And it is.
Yeah, I have a couple of things that I'd like to just explore. Are there any other technologies that may be more beneficial in noise reduction than the curtain concept? And could we consider those, let's say, other concepts on the sides most affected or likely to affect the neighbors? In other words, you wouldn't have to put that up on the Union, the Villa side, I don't think. But Stephanie, any ideas?
So I think if I could, only because I talked with Connor and was on the
Yep.
communication now. From what we heard from the other towns, this was the most effective balancing cost considerations technology that's out there. You could get into the building of a solid wall. You'd be talking 6 figures, well over 6 figures easily. And so this, again, it wasn't proposed without having scientific research at the amount of value of noise reduction. That's why we were appreciative that Mashpee also provided their independent testing as well. And I'm happy to, again, I'll send those materials around. But there was, the next step up really was a permanent solid feature. And that is cost prohibitive. It would easily be 6 figures. Not just at 100,000. There was no, honestly, it was the estimates. The general discussion was that it was so expensive, we actually didn't pursue getting any actual quotes.
Okay.
But so great question, but that is, this is, but just so that you know, this is not quote unquote netting. This is not mesh. This is solid acoustic design material to do its job. It will definitely be a visual block entirely and a sound block as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Ed?
Just in support, the Historical Society is located right next to the railroad tracks. And one of the mitigations that the MBTA has promoted for homeowners and the Historical Society is that solid wall. And it is incredibly expensive. The other question, and maybe you can answer it, Tom, you seem to know a lot more about technology here, is decibels is, it's like the scale for earthquakes, right? It's a logarithmic scale. So some of the reductions that we were looking at might be even more substantial than they look on paper. Is that possible?
Could be, and certainly at different frequencies. You're absolutely right. Now, candidly, I hope we set expectations appropriately, because the graphs illustrate there is still noise. There will still be noise. It will be somewhere between 25 to, on average, closer to 40% reduction. I'm not sure if that solves the entire problem. I think it's more, to your points, a combination of managing time via the hours, reducing the noise while it is present, and certainly trying to be thoughtful about, as we go forward, orientation of fields to further mitigate in the future, if we do things like this, how that impacts people.
Is there any variance in reduction if you built the fence higher? In other words, you used 1.5 of those panels versus the original 1 panel shown.
Yep. So that 1 panel shown was only because that fence was at that height. I believe the pickleball courts are a double fence height. It's not an 8-foot fence. Is that a true statement? It's 16, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So great question, Al. It has the right height, and we would be able to go up high enough. And I think you're spot on. It would avoid the spillover, quote unquote.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Go ahead, Amanda?
Just as a procedural point on the third part of Ed's motion, I wonder if it ought not to be split and something to be submitted to town council or something like that, because there are, for example, in the special permit context, it's like abutters to abutters within 90 feet or something like that. Like there are terms of art and land use that we shouldn't just be saying off the cuff, oh, we're going to notify abutters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
cost involved too. You're right, absolutely right, Amanda.
And how about if we worded it, Amanda, to your point, and if it's okay, we'll have some latitude to review a final product as we always review our application, but it would be consideration for the required notification of abutters, so that it's not, meaning we want to reflect and consider as to whether or not we want to notify abutters, but it's not mandating that every application requires notification of abutters.
Right.
because it's
If we need to
onerous
add
and
language-
I
sorry.
would want to ideally see the burden be put on the applicant rather than the town.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And again, if I could, Amanda, you referenced regulatory structures like the special permits. It outlines very specifically when you're talking about abutters. And I think it's probably like a project by project basis where, again, this is something staff can do. We can look at the project, where it's going to be located. Is it something that's likely to have an impact or could potentially have an impact on the abutters, and make a recommendation that the board required that the abutters be notified, something like that.
It's not a foolproof system. I spent the last 5 years listening to a person who was across the street from the brewery. The brewery did their best to mitigate their sound issues, but it was a problem for this guy for the rest of the time he was on the property. And his biggest complaint was he was across the street and was not notified. And the reason was the way the property lines came, he wasn't an abutter or an abutter to the abutter. And so again, nothing's foolproof, but I think making sure we take a look at people who are going to be impacted, that would have.
Right. I think that's actually better than the standard, the regulatory standard, because it is very concrete in how it's laid out. And, you know, sometimes people feel like they're missed and not made aware of something that could affect them.
So Amanda, if it's okay, I'll ask Steph and Wayne, I'll work with them to come up with a proposed language regarding how we want the consideration for notification of abutters in consultation with town council, town norms and laws, applicant responsibility. And I'll just spin it by you for just a review, if that's okay. And, you know, I look at that not as a requirement that every project must require every abutter, but that we as a committee are committed to considering the notification of abutters and making that a requirement for the applicant to do. And we may, and maybe asterisk abutters as, which may be as defined or subject to adjustment according to the CPC, so that we capture the one person who doesn't technically abut, but is 15 feet away on a diagonal.
Yeah.
I have no
It'd also
issue.
be good to send it to Greg as the planning and zoning rep. Isn't Greg planning and zoning?
Mhm.
It's on
Yeah.
411 committees, I know.
Just one more question, if I may. Are we going to walk into the same situation at the high school with the placement of pickleball courts over there? You know, noise
Really in the middle of
issue?
nowhere.
I'm sorry, what?
It's really kind of, the tennis courts are not, I can't think of any houses that would be within
No,
football
I'm thinking of
field.
the operation of the school.
Hmm.
Would the noise be an issue over there during school hours?
Windows open and no air conditioning.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I know the schools have been pretty thoughtful with their application process, and tennis does occur as well over there during the time. I'm not saying the noise is equal. But I know that the school has put forth their application, so I would hope that they would be thoughtful about the ramifications and implications.
Maybe
But-
they need to go visit the abutters at the villa.
Yeah,
maybe. Yep. So, Steph, if I could just ask you to send Alicia a follow-up note that we talked about noise and want to make sure that the school, I'm confident they considered that, but that the schools are thoughtful about that in their warrant article. Ed?
Thanks.
The side of the building the pickleball courts are going to be located in has the fewest windows and doesn't have any classrooms. It's the office side, which is air conditioned, and then the kitchen custodial area, which is a big solid wall. So I think just checking to make sure that they've thought about that is more than enough. And it's a very good point. There have been issues in the past, not with sound, but with lighting of some of the backfields at night with the people that are abutters over on Summer Street.
Good call. Regarding number 2, I have no issue drafting a letter of support with the committee's approval. I would work with Meredith in the drafting of said letter to hopefully jointly approach the rec commission. But I would absolutely be happy to work on that and attend the rec committee meeting where the letter was discussed in order to be available for questions or share any thoughts, insights, or opportunities for us all to work better, more collaboratively when these projects come up. So
Just one more point, if I may. We've identified a cost of around $39,000. So there may be additional costs. So you may want to add a 20% contingency or something like that. But after that's done, and if it's approved, couldn't the rest of those funds be taken back and added to the $360,000 that already is earmarked for reappropriation?
That's the intent, Al. Yep. Any project dollars that are not used or spent would be would head back into the unreserved fund. And I would propose that we should allocate $50,000 for this particular project. The estimate at $39,000. But to your point, contingency and or if we find that a slight deviation in installation, I'm completely making this up, but if you install a foam core where joints come together, you get another 5 decibel reduction, then we could have some flexibility to do so. So I think you made the motion, Ed. It was seconded by Jim, and I'm assuming the amount of $50,000 assigned to your motion is acceptable to you from a motion standpoint?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Second.
Okay, and so if there's no further commentary, I'll go.
Are we
around
taking item 3 out? Is Ed withdrawing that?
Sorry, yes, you're right. I almost looked at items 2 and 3 as not necessarily in the motion, but I'm committed to doing them.
Let me refine the motion. I don't want to take out 2 because we want to force you to do something you've volunteered to do.
Fair.
But number 3 could be very similar. We could designate the chair or his designee to investigate the issue of notification of abutters.
Perfect.
Mine was second.
So the slate of the 3, which would be the appropriation of $50,000 to install noise reducing fences, the initial estimated quote of $39,000. The item 2 would be the letter of support that I will certainly take the lead on in drafting, pulling together and work with Meredith to present to the rec commission. And then item 3, which is empowering myself, working with Greg and Amanda. Oh, sorry, Amanda.
I'm sorry, does it make sense to include signage in the 50,000? Or is that so inexpensive we don't have to appropriate for it?
I think that's fair. I think if we can explore how communication via signage as the Recreation Commission plays itself out, I think it's short cost, but by stating it, we are actually putting it into the expectation. That I think that's helpful. And maybe to your point, the signage should also speak to, if necessary, where people are not to park, like the basketball court and not on the field. That's a great point. Hearing nobody against that, great idea.
But it's Ed's motion, so I think he had to.
Yes, let's make that amendment if Jim's okay with that.
Yes.
Perfect. Item 3 would be empowering the chair in order to pursue the consideration of adjusting and updating our application to account for notification of abutters. Awesome. So I'll go in reverse order. Meredith,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Tom Broussard is an aye. Thank you all. I really appreciate your discussion, your flexibility, and certainly your empathy and quick action to help out these residents and to help us get the project overall to a better place. So greatly appreciated. And I think, again, it's about the learning, and we're already starting to work to applying that. So it's appreciated. In terms of other items, I guess I don't have a general update, Wayne, regarding solicitation potential projects. Did you have any items that you wanted to talk about?
This is more of a circling back to the members of the CPC to reach out to contacts or likely candidates. The letters of interest are due at the end of June. We had a good conversation with, Meredith, was it last week? And so we're expecting a letter of interest for, some additional work, some other items. So we've got about 5-6 weeks. And I don't know of very many things coming towards us. The Affordable Housing Trust will ask for their 10%. We may have something, 1 or 2 things from REC, possibly an archives conservation question. So
Swifts Park.
Yep, exactly. Thank you for that.
I've heard rumors that the library may want to ask for some repair work.
Yep, I've heard that as well. So if you know of anything, if you know of people who may be interested in applying, if your various respective boards and commissions have, priority work plans or something, sort of re-examine that. It's basically just a heads up to, please consider your part in the outreach to the broader community about the application process.
Good. Thank you, Wayne. I don't have any items that were not reasonably anticipated by the chair. So unless there's no further business that the committee has, I'm happy to take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Lee?
Second, Hands.
That's Lee and Hands. Meredith,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Broussard is an aye. Thank you all so much for your time. I think I said we might get out early and enjoy some of the sunshine, but we kept it past 8, but it's really appreciated. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Night, folks.
Bye.
Dave.
Good night.
Bye, folks.